Verse 34 and 35 are really is an insert passage that is being given to us by Matthew to remind us of something that Jesus said earlier. And just to get us back into the flow of this again, chapter 12, of course, is full of a controversial day, all the Sabbath day, and the Pharisees have rejected truth time after time after time after time, and have gone so far in their process that they have literally criticized Jesus of being full of the devil. So they have shut him down. They're not listening. They've turned him off. They shut their hearing down. They're sleeping during the service. There's no way they're going to listen to what Jesus has to say. So he begins a whole new style of ministry. And the style of ministry is the ministry of parables. And he begins to tell these parables. And the disciples are so moved by that, they come and say, "Why are you doing that?" And of course, Jesus moves in and gives them an answer in verse 10 down through verse 16 or 17. And the answer is, I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I'm not trying to keep truth from you. I'm trying to reveal truth to you. But I've tried theology and you didn't listen to that. I tried logic and you didn't get that. I tried giving you Old Testament scene and you didn't get that. So I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how am I going to get you to listen to truth for your life? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you stories, parables. And these parables are designed to lodge themselves into the mind, implanted by the Holy Spirit, that as we go through the process of life itself, it would explode one day in your thinking and truth will be revealed. So Jesus says, I'm not trying to conceal, I'm trying to reveal truth to you in parables. Now, Jesus then begins to tell several parables. Then Matthew picks up on that and says, hey, don't want you to forget why this is going on. And he gives us this verse 34 and 35, which is a reminder of what Jesus said to us. So let's read verse 34 and 35. All these things Jesus spoke to the multitude in parables. And without a parable, he did not speak to them, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things kept secret from the foundation of the world. Now, we've been slowly analyzing, walking through what he's saying in that truth. He begins in verse 35 with a purpose clause. So all of verse 35 is a purpose clause. So in our outline, we started with the idea of purpose. Here's why I'm doing this. This is the purpose why I'm telling parables. So everything is wrapped up in this one single purpose, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. Now, the minute you get into prophecy, of course, you're into the overwhelming idea of a plan. God is systematically walking out a plan, and he's speaking that plan in parables. So the purpose of the parables is he is speaking in parables for the purpose of revealing the plan of God for your life. Now, you ought to be interested in that, would you not? If God has a plan for your life, whoa! After all, he designed you and made you and structured you. Therefore, his plan for your life would mean your life would work best in that plan. So I want to find out what that plan is. So he begins with that purpose. This is the purpose of the parables, that plan of God might be revealed to your life. Then we moved into the opening statement of Psalms. This is, by the way, a quotation from Psalm 78. I will open my mouth in parables. And we discovered parentage, purpose. What's the purpose? Now he's moving to parentage. In other words, birthing. I'm opening my mouth. Where are the parables being birthed from? What is birthing these parables in the life of Jesus? And he says, I will open my mouth, which when you go back to chapter 12, which this is related to, Jesus strongly tells this phenomenal idea that what comes out of the mouth comes from the heart. So that means when I open my mouth, I'm opening up my heart to you. So if you want to know where the parables are coming from, they're coming right out of the heart of Jesus, which is the plan for your life. So this is being birthed. This is not, an academic investigation. This is not Jesus making things up as he goes along. He is revealing the distinct heart of God for your life. Then we moved into the power, because you moved to the next statement. I will utter things. The power of it. And it would seem like that I open my mouth, I will utter things, would be the same statement. But we found out that I will utter things, the Greek for the word utter is literally vomit or belch. So there's this something inside of me that is just strongly moving within me that I just cannot keep within me. So parables are what? It's something inside of the heart of God. He so desperately wants to communicate to us that it just can't be contained within, and he just belches it out. It is forced into revelation. So there's a great power behind this. Then in the last few Saturday nights, we've dealt with the private idea. I will utter things kept secret. The private. Now these are private and kept secret, but it's not kept secret in order to deceive you. It's not I'm withholding something so you'll mess up. It's not that kind of kept secret. It's a kept secret because, hey, you just can't quite understand it yet. I want you to know it. I want to reveal this to you. I desperately want you to get this. But it's kept secret from you, meaning you just aren't able to get a hold of this yet in your thought process. You haven't matured to the place. I haven't been able to get you to see. Therefore, it's kept secret from you. So this whole idea of you're just not able to comprehend it yet is the essence of kept secret. Now tonight, we're going to move into the last section, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. Listen to this. I will utter, remember that's this strong inside, this can't keep it, it's just spilling out of my mouth. I want you to know it's kept secret from you, and it's kept secret from the foundation of the world. I don't know what that does to you. Maybe it doesn't do anything to you. But it's the fundamental premise of everything he's communicating to us in the parables. That he literally wants to reveal everything that has been kept secret from what time period? From clear back to the foundation of the world. Let's analyze that together. Start with the commencement. The idea is foundation of the world. The word foundation, by the way, is katabale, and it's the idea of not something solid upon which you plant something, but it's the idea of the act of starting something for the first time. So he says, I want to go back with you to where God, in the imagination of his own mind and the power of his own creative ability, started the first thing. Let me take you back to where all of this was launched into being. Let me take you back there. That's what I want to reveal to you. I want to reveal to you the very essence of what, and the parables are the revelation of that. In the parables, I'm going to give you the reality of truth that was involved in the beginning of all things. Did you get that? In the parables, what I want to do to you is I want you to know the reality of the truth that was involved in the beginning of all things as they were established. The foundation, the act of starting all things. Well, what are the all things? Well, he mentions it as the world, the foundation, the beginning of the world. Now, the Greek word for world is cosmos, and we think in terms of physical world, which probably is involved, but the idea of the word itself, cosmos, is really the order. Think about this now. The order or the arrangement or the in the dictionaries, they call it the regular disposition of how things work. So back here, in the beginning of things, God set into motion principles, truth, which Jesus is, the reality of how things work. He structured it. How things are put together and how things are meant to fit together and how they're meant to work in life itself. And in the parables, I'm trying to reveal that to you. How things are meant to operate. Now, in other words, it's the principles that God put into existence that literally are governing the universe itself. And immediately, again, we think in terms of physical. For instance, there's the whole idea of gravity. There's a principle called gravity in the physical world. God set it into motion. Ever since the world began, there's been the principle of gravity. Otherwise, we'd all float away. So we're all operating under the principle of gravity, which God started from the very beginning of the things that he created. That principle is operating. There's the principle of momentum. The principle of momentum has existed, whether we call it that, whether we knew what it was, didn't matter. It existed from the very beginning of time and has always been in operation, and you operate on that every time you drive a car. That's why you got brakes, people. We don't seldom use them, but we got brakes. The principle of time. The sun rises, the sun, that's been going on from the creation. God set that thing in motion, and it was arranged. It's a principle about what night and day and the whole operation of that thing, God set that into. Now, all of that's in the physical realm. But Jesus says, I'm telling parables, but I'm not telling parables about physical stuff. Come on. I want to take you to the spiritual realm. And I want to give you the operational principles by which God structured your whole spiritual existence. And I want you to see that for your life. And he begins to tell these parables which give you how you are to function in your life. Not physical, how you are to function in your relationships, how you're to function in your thought process, how you're to function in your attitude, the structure of your life, what it's to be like. I want to give you that, he says. Now, I want you to know the source of energy, so you won't burn out, you won't give up, you won't live in discouragement and depression. I want to give you the principles of the reality of truth by which you are to be sourced in the existence of your life. That's what I want to give you in the parable. Now, you may come along and say, I haven't got time for that. That old spiritual realm, I just don't have time for that. My physical life is in such pressuring me, and I'm just struggling to exist in the physical, so I don't have time for the spiritual. It doesn't matter, people, because you may say, I don't have time for gravity, but brother, gravity is working in your life, whether you have time for it or not. And the spiritual principles, the truth of reality that God set into motion from the very beginning are operating in your life right now, regardless of whether you want to acknowledge them or find them or discover them or know them. That is operating in your life. Have you ever just stopped dead in your tracks and say, duh, why am I where I am? How did I get here? Well, these principles are operating in my life. Equally to how gravity is operating in my life, they are operating in my life. And where I am at this moment is a direct result of my response to those principles, whether I know what they are or whether I don't know what they are. But Jesus says, I want you to know what they are, so I'm giving you parables. And those principles, the way he set things up, the DNA of how you function as a person in spiritual reality, which affects your whole eternal destiny, is all wrapped up in what he's telling you in the parables. Now, if you got a hold of that, let's go to a second idea. Let's play off of that into a second idea, which is the consistency. These spiritual principles, which he started at the beginning of all things, he put these principles into operation. So Jesus isn't making anything new up. Why? Because they have been consistent all the way through the history of the world and your life. They've not changed. If you like old traditional stuff, that's what these principles are. They are so old. And if you can believe it, older than I am. Whoa. This really goes back. And they have not changed, and they are absolutely consistent in their revelation, which is really interesting. So Jesus isn't saying, oh, I've come to start a new thing. No, I've come to tell you in parable form exactly what God intended from the very beginning of the structure of all things. And I'm going to do it in parables. It's really interesting to go to the scriptures and find other places where this foundation of the world, from the foundation of the world, is mentioned. It's really revealing. Let me read you one. Ephesians 1:4. Just as he chose us, just as Jesus chose us in him before the foundation of the world. There's the phrase. He chose us before him in the foundation of the world, before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy, without blame, before him in love, having predestined us to adoption as sons by Jesus Christ to himself. From the beginning of the order of things, when God put things in order, he chose you. You were chosen by God. Not recently, but just as much recently as back there. You literally were chosen by God in the beginning. That's mind-boggling, isn't it? In the beginning structure of things, God saw your face. And if you say, well, I don't believe that, well, then you probably don't believe that the number of hairs on your head are numbered either. And that he knows the number. That God is so intimate with you and who you are and the mechanism of your system that he knows the very essence of how you should function and what's best in the reality of your life. And he set that in order. Oh, he says, let me tell it to you in parables. So here's a parable for you. This guy had a bag of seed. He goes out into this field, takes this seed, and it fell on 4 kinds of soils. Was he selective in, I'm not putting seed on that. Oh, I'll put seed on that one. No, it was psst, psst. Because he chose every soil. Well, what determined the soil? If there were 4 kinds, what determined what kind of soil the soil was? The response of the soil to the seed. What's the seed? Well, it's the spiritual dynamic reality that God set into operation at the beginning. And that's been spilling into your life, and how have you been responding to it? That determines what condition of soil you are. There's the hard soil, the pathway that he mentions. The Pharisees, he couldn't get through to them. They wouldn't listen. They took the reality of the way things are to operate, revealed in the person of Jesus, blew it off, man. Not going to care. Not going to listen to it. Isn't going to affect my life. But it did affect their lives because they came solidly hard and were void of truth. And why are they the way they are? Because of their response to the what God set into existence from the very beginning. So if the hard soil wants a change in their lives, how would they change? If they look at their lives and say, I don't like this hardness. I don't like to be the way I am. I'd like my life to be better and altered. I don't feel like I'm living in fullness. How would that take place? Oh, they'd have to respond differently to the principles that he established that have been in existence from the beginning. Duh. So the kinds of soil you are is determined by your response to the reality of truth that was set up before, when the order of things were put into place. The soil of the seed lands on a soil. It grows, but underneath is this rock formation. It's Tennessee, probably. It's only about that thick. And then you hit this rock stuff. It's Tennessee. Yeah, definitely. He was talking Tennessee stuff. And so the plant grows, but the sun comes out, and it has no depth, and it kills the plant. So there's no production. Why? It's how the soil responds to the truth that was set into existence back in the order of things when God set it up. So if the soil, if the plant that starts and only exists for a while and then it's scorched and the cares of the world come in and choke it out, that's the weed thing, it goes into that soil. See, all of these soils are dictated to by how they respond to how God set the order up, the reality of truth, and Jesus is the expression of that truth. How did I get where I am? And if I want change in my life, how's that going to come about? I've got to respond differently to the order and arrangement that spilled out of the nature and heart of God for my life, contained in the person of Jesus. Who wouldn't want that? I'm in, Jesus. I want that. The defeat in my life, the things I don't like about myself, what I wish was different in my living, it's the chaos I've created by the resistance to what you've been trying to reveal to me, which is the order of things that you set up. I was built for you, wasn't I? I was made to be yours, wasn't I? You structured it in my system. And when I don't have you, and when I'm not in operation with you, and when I'm not in unity with you, and when you aren't Lord in my life, and when you are not directing me, what happens to me, God? I become the soil that's hard. I become the soil where the plant dies. I become filled with the thorns and the thistles of this world that just choke out every good thing in my life. I become everything I don't want to be because I'm not responding to who you are, which has been established from the foundation of the world the order of the way things were meant to operate. And what are you trying to do in my life, God? You are trying, aren't you? You're desperately trying, even to the point of just telling me some stories. You're trying to draw me in to the reality of truth. In the name of Jesus, break down my resistance. In the name of Jesus, bring such a presence of your Spirit that all demonic force that would blind me and hinder me would be pushed aside for a moment, and I could have a blinding moment of truth where you literally get through to me, and I see it. Whoa. Give me moments when the hearing aids really do work, and I hear. Heads are bowed. How many stories does he have to tell you? How many times do you have to fall flat on your face until you start believing in gravity? What would it take? What would it take for you just to respond to truth and allow him to do a new thing in your life? See, he's not hiding from you. He's not keeping secrets from you to deceive you. He's, desperately wanting revelation to take place in your life. Could this be a moment where your life is aligned with the order and the arrangements of things from the very beginning when he put things in motion? So here we are, a moment of response. Altar is available. Would you like to come and seek with me? Be obedient.